Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Model Railway News. Today we're talking about a very major announcement by Rapido. Now this news broke after the last Model Railway News video and frankly there's so much to talk about here that I don't think I could have squeezed all of this into a news video, so I think a dedicated video is going to be best for this. So the big news is that Rapido Trains UK are officially moving into 00 Narrowgauge or 009 scale. This all started a little while ago with a teaser they posted on social media reading it's 0900 and just 009 days to go until our next newsletter. And when I saw that, I thought, yeah, I know what this means. They're going to be dabbling in 009. Perhaps they're going to announce a loco. If we're lucky, we'll get a new wagon as well, possibly two. But I was very, very wrong, as usual from Rapido, actually. They're not just going into this in a small way. They've announced a massive range of stuff. It's an entire range, really. Yeah, technically there's only one class of locomotive announced, but there's so many different variations and so many options with that effectively you've got more than that, and a whole host of rolling stock as well. Now this has come at a perfect time really, because over the past few years Bachmann have done a lot of work in 009 Narrowgauge. They've produced some fantastic locomotives and rolling stock, but their new releases seem to be quite few and far between, particularly where the locomotives are concerned. So Rapido coming along and offering this range right now will add much needed variety to the 009 lineup and give 009 modelers much more choice in what they can model, which is absolutely amazing. So let's jump into this and talk about the locomotive. So Rapido have announced the 040 Sedar class tank engine as built by Kerr Stuart and Company from the late 1800s into the early 1900s. They were British built, but as well as running in Britain, the Sedars were also used in Australia and other parts of the world as well. And in true Rapido fashion, they've announced no less than 8 different versions of this loco to begin with, all in different colours, as you can see, every single one different. So they've got specific real-life locomotives like Diana, for example, in this lined grey livery. Love the look of that. She's the best known of the Sedar class, I think, and she was recently restored about 10 years ago, having been built back in 1909. Another real engine they've announced is Leonora, again very smart looking, and this is a slightly earlier member of the Sedar class, built back in 1901 originally. But Rapido seem to have built this range with customizability in mind, so we've got some realistic prototypical locomotives, but they've also announced some more generic locomotives as well, which are perfect for customization. For example, they've got an unnumbered plain green, which you could do anything you want with, I suppose. They've got a plain yellow as well, as you can see, lots you could do with this stuff. Plus, I particularly like this burnt orange livery too, unnumbered and unnamed, so you could name it or number it whatever you want. So you could put your own mark onto this if you wanted to. But the customizability of these locos goes even further than this. Every loco is going to be coming with a whole host of optional and interchangeable parts, allowing you to customize each engine to your exact specification. This includes 3 different chimneys, so they've got the standard chimney, the stovepipe chimney, and the much larger spark arrestor chimney, which brings a very different look to the loco, doesn't it? Here's what it looks like fitted to one of the engines. Fantastic option that. You can choose to add dumb buffers or not. You can have toolboxes fitted or not. Those seem to be optional too. And if you want to model a vacuum fitted Sedar class, you can choose to add the vacuum pipes if you want to. So truly customizable through and through. I don't think I've ever seen this level of customizability available on a ready-to-run model before. Absolutely fantastic. And the customizability goes even further than that, because they're making the motorized chassis available separately. We don't see this very often either with ready-to-run models, but of course for modelers who just want a chassis and they're going to produce their own body or perhaps build one using a kit, this is absolutely fantastic. If Rapido hadn't done this at a cheaper price, then people, if they wanted to do this, would have had to have paid full price for one of the locos, taken off the body, discarded it or wasted it in some manner and produced their own. So this is a fantastic way to save some money, which is great. If you didn't want to build your own body for one of these chassis, you've got another option as well, because Rapido have partnered up with 4Ds who are producing a range of no less than 10 3D printed body kits, which have been specifically designed for this chassis. So with these you can produce countless different looking locos which all use a common chassis. So again, unprecedented. This one chassis is going to allow people to do so much. Very, very impressive. And of course this render that Rapido have shown on the product listing for the chassis by itself does show us a little bit about what the mechanism's going to look like as well. So it's going to be running a small compact coreless motor, which is a great choice for 009. We can also see that it's got a flywheel fitted to it as well, which hints at quality. Very good to see that. It's also clearly DCC ready too, with a 6-pin DCC socket, so digital users have been catered for here as well. They also say that this chassis can handle down to first radius curves, obviously because of the short wheelbase of the 040, so it's going to be a truly versatile locomotive in more or less every way. It is worth noting though that they haven't been able to fit stay alive capacitors or a pre-fitted speaker onto this chassis. Obviously that's not to say it would be impossible to squeeze these features in, but if you want them, you've got to do it yourself. I think people could probably live without the speaker, but it is a shame to see no stay alive capacitor here, because obviously the short wheelbase 040 is going to be quite light on pickups. It is a pity that they haven't been able to find a way to fit stay alives as standard. Let's talk about some of the other features then. So the complete pre-built locos have quite a bit of variation among them. Some of them, for example, Lenora here, have this cane bin fitted to the boiler, which is very interesting. I would assume that would be for transporting sugarcane maybe overseas. Not seen anything like that before, and of course other members of this class don't have that, so that's a big noticeable variation. Common features include fully detailed cabs. This looks fantastic. Can't wait to see what these actually look like in physical form. And paintwork wise, the finish has been described as museum quality, which I can fully believe from Rapido. Yep, they do a good job with decoration, so that should be good. And they are going to have NEM cupola pockets as well, which again is nice and standard. Price-wise, the full RRP for one of these DCC ready is to be £139.95, or at the retailers, Rails of Sheffield for example, £118.95. Which I have to say, you know, it's not cheap, but it certainly seems reasonable compared with what else is on the market in 009, keeping in mind of course that 009 is much more niche than 00 scale. For example, the Bachmann Quarry Hunslet, which I think is a similar size, just going on the looks, that's £123.20 at the retailers, so slightly more expensive than Rapido's offering here. And Bachmann's mainline Hunslet, which is slightly larger, of course, is much more at £154.95. So at the very least, it seems Rapido's prices here are competitive, and that's fantastic to see. So these locos sound amazing. Obviously, these are just renders. We've not seen anything physical of these models yet. So now I guess the hard work truly begins, turning these digital renders into something real. And if they can make the models look as good as these renders do, I think they're going to be onto something very, very special with this. But that is only half of the story, in fact probably less than half of the story, because the bulk of this announcement consists of rolling stock. I was expecting 1, maybe 2 wagons if we were lucky. It's far, far more than that in reality. I've counted at least 10 different wagons in the range, and there could be even more than that if there are some exclusives that I've not seen. Looking at them, many of them, if not all of them, appear to use a common chassis, but they've all got different body types representing all sorts of different industries. So they've got these drop-side open wagons in a variety of liveries. Some of them have specific private owner lettering on them, and some of them are more generic in just plain brown and greys, again with that customizability in mind. So there's a bit of variation in the prices of these. These particular wagons are £25.95 RRP or £22.05 at the retailers. They've got these awesome looking cylindrical tanks. These are going to look incredible in 009, I think. There's a couple of plain generic ones here again, but they've also got a more specific United Dairies milk tanker, which I love the look of, And they've got an oil tanker here. This is the Empire oil tanker. And they've even got a tongue-in-cheek one here, elbow grease. I quite like that one. These are a bit more expensive, £27.95 at the full price, or £23.75 at the retailers. So definitely not cheap, these, but hopefully the standard of these wagons will be similar to Rapido's 00 scale standard gauge models. They've also got a gunpowder van at the same price in a variety of liveries. Again, some of them are plain, which is going to be useful to folks who don't want something too specific. But then there's some less generic ones. They've got that G-Forks one, again, that we saw on their 00 scale gunpowder vans. So truly something for everybody in this rolling stock range. Here we've got some nice tall covered goods vans, 7 of these to choose from, so realistically you could build a nice long varied train with just these alone, couldn't you? At the retailers, £23.75 for these. They've got some peaked roof vans, again 7 of these announced, with at least one familiar name in the lineup. This is the Sax Assault Wagon, love to see that. £25.95, that's the full price. You can pre-order these now for £22.05. The next one I think is my favourite. This is the Man Rider wagon. Now, potentially you could use these maybe to set up a primitive passenger railway or something like that. I think in real life, though, these sorts of wagons were more used for transporting staff to work sites, that sort of thing. So even if you're not interested in a passenger railway, you could probably still justify one of these to carry your worker staff around. Just 3 of these announced this time, all quite generic, but there is this blue one with gilding on it, which looks beautiful indeed. Again, same price, £25.95 RRP or £22.05 at the retailers. Not too bad for that one, actually. That looks a bit more involved than some of the others. They've also announced some generic looking livestock wagons in just the grey or the brown. These look very early. I love the look of these. Little bit expensive this time, £27.95 is the RRP or £23.75, so with postage you're talking a good £25 each for these. They've got some stake wagons with 3 different liveries as well. These are for transporting lumber or similar. £22.05 at the retailers for these. And of course, you can't have a train like this without some sort of brake van. And Rapido, sure enough, have delivered. They've got these single veranda brake vans, which I love once again. As usual, we've got a good variety of different liveries here, including one which has a comical misspelling of the word brake. So I guess your 00 workers can come to this brake van for a bit of a rest or a break, something like that. This is the most expensive of the rolling stock, as you'd probably expect. £29.95 is the full price, and at the retailers you're talking over 25 quid at £25.45. So hopefully that means this brake van is going to be a bit more complex. I have seen that they've got brake handles separately fitted to the verandas. Possibly this means we'll be getting some interior detail as well. You know, it's 25 quid, it's Rapido. Are they really going to leave the interiors blank? I would doubt it, but they haven't mentioned specifically, at least not that I've seen. So fingers crossed, these are going to be very impressive brake vans. But I think generally speaking on price with this rolling stock, it is quite expensive, but compared with what else is out there, again, keeping in mind how niche 009 is, I don't think they've done too bad. I mean, it's definitely cheaper than some equivalent Bachmann wagons. Not so much the tiny De Norwich slate wagons, but then again, they really are tiny wagons and there's not much to those. They're more similar to the RNAD wagons that Bachmann did, which come in at £24.95 at the retailers. So Rapido, I think, generally are more affordable than Bachmann on pricing. There's also loads of exclusive wagons going out to various different retailers. So Rails of Sheffield have some very interesting War Department train packs. The first pack contains 2 bomb carrier wagons, complete with graffiti. I love that, and they've got an exclusive War Department brake van as well. And this pack of 3 wagons comes in at £81.95, which works out at about £27 per wagon, so more expensive than the standard range, but that's quite typical for Rails exclusives. They do tend to be more expensive than you'd expect. The other triple pack features the open dropside wagon, again in that War Department livery, a tanker and a box van for the same price of £81.95. So these 2 packs together would give you a nice train of 6 War Department wagons. That's going to be useful to a lot of people as well, I think. Loads of 009 wartime layouts. These could be very handy indeed. There's also some other exclusives available as well. Derails have some. My favourite ones though are these Great Western liveried 009 narrow gauge wagons, which are available exclusively from light railway stores. Something a bit less generic, more specific, Great Western. Again, I think that was a really good choice. Even quite tempted to pick some of those up, I reckon. So the standard range together with all of the exclusives, and I urge you to check them out because there's loads, this is going to create a massive and very versatile range of rolling stock. Perfect, yes, for Rapido's newly announced loco, but also ideal for lots of the other 009 locos already produced. Bachmann have done quite a few, and Pico have got theirs as well. So loads and loads of locos that these would be suitable for. Great to see such a big range from Rapido. I've also seen some renders of example trains. This is what they'd look like fully assembled. You can see the variety in the trains here. That is just what we needed to see, I think. That really helps to visualize what's going to be possible with this range and also how massive this range truly is. So I am really excited to see all of this stuff. I think when it all gets released, the horizons of 009 narrow gauge in the UK are going to be dramatically broadened by this stuff. The amount of rolling stock is just fantastic to see here. Like the locomotives though, all of this rolling stock is just in rendered form at the moment. We've not seen anything physical yet. And I think that's really what I'm going to be waiting to see next. That will really give us an idea of what the standard of these models is going to be. So I think next we'll probably see some 3D printed samples. That's usually what Rapido do. After that, then hopefully we'll start to see some shots from the tooling. But yeah, very, very interested to see how this project progresses. Now, over this video, I've made quite a few comments about the prices of these models and how, generally speaking, Rapido do seem to have done slightly better than Bachmann. But it is worth saying that while Bachmann's models, yes, are quite expensive, the standard of Bachmann's models is absolutely incredible. That Quarry Hunslet I looked at was a miniature work of art. What a beautiful loco that was. And I think the Bagley Drury diesel that I looked at was one of the best looking and best running locomotives I've ever reviewed. So the standards for 009 at the moment are very, very high, and this means Rapido have some pretty big boots to fill. Obviously, a lot of this stuff by Rapido is going to end up being run alongside a lot of the Bachmann locos and rolling stock, so it will need to match them in terms of appearance and running qualities as well. So it's a very big challenge for Rapido. You know, say what you want about Bachmann, their 009 stuff is fantastic. So fingers crossed, Rapido will be able to match Bachmann on quality, and looking at what they've been doing recently, I think they very much will. So I think that's pretty much it. I think that's more or less all of it covered for now. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this. What are you most excited for? And have you been tempted by any of this stuff? If you have been and you'd like to check it out, do check out the affiliate links that I've got in the description. Get those pre-orders in, show that you're interested. I'm going to be doing that as well, and hopefully I'll be able to review some of this fantastic stuff for you. But for now, thank you ever so much for watching. That will just about do it for this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, cheers folks, you take care.